It's now 7:08. Jackie, with that, we will do an order of recall to an order of a regular meeting. Jackie, can we please start with a roll call?
Amanda Harness.
Here.
Fred Davis.
Here.
Steve Byers.
Here.
Ariel Owens.
Present.
Christopher Boyce.
Here.
Casey Ramirez.
Present.
Ante Bynum. Jenna Zimmerman.
All right, thank you. Next item is public participation and recognition. Public comments. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board shall complete a request card prior to the start of the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. And we do have one comment from Mr. Jason Reed, and this is regarding subject Mitchell School District boundaries. So,
Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
There you go. Thank you. Good evening and thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate this. My name is Dr. Jason Reed. I am a resident of DeKalb for the last 13 and a half years, and I have with me my daughter Iris Reed, who is a third grader currently at Jefferson Elementary. And I would like to request, please, that students currently enrolled in Jefferson Elementary but would be in the proposed Mitchell districts would have an option to continue attending there. Let me present you with some numbers. 0.1 miles. That is the distance Google Maps says separates my current residence from the easternmost border of the latest proposed borders, and would redistrict her into Mitchell. Google Maps also suggests that there are a dozen houses on Fox Hollow Court, south of Hillcrest Drive, which are east of my house, making them physically closer to Mitchell, but they would be districted for Jefferson. I appreciate this is a difficult task with many variables you have to consider. Some things are very confusing and difficult to deal with. But let me give you some numbers that are crystal clear to me. 4 years of excellence at Jefferson Elementary. The staff, faculty, teachers, students, all make up an environment that has allowed our family to be proud to be called Jaguars, and my daughter to succeed. 3s, all across every assessment she has received and report cards. Every parent-teacher-student conference has had nothing but praise for my daughter, who has excelled in every opportunity she has been afforded at this wonderful school, such as being able to meet in a reading group with Miss Johnson, when she was able to go above and beyond what was the regularly assigned classwork and continue to pursue her strengths, something that we value at Jefferson. 2 semesters, each and every year, of wonderful extracurricular programs and activities, a unique multicultural night that truly emphasizes multicultural, a literacy night, math night, and a fun fair, which has been enjoyed and which was chaired by her mother, Dr. Alicia Santuzzi, in 2022 to great acclaim. But the most important note, 1, my daughter, who I am proud of. I know she succeeds anywhere, but Jefferson has been core and key to who she is now. I know that for a fact. As I said, I appreciate the hard work, the communication, the opportunities you have involved the public in with your monumental task to provide a brand new school with brand new everything, people and facilities. But however, I would like to conclude with saying, in my math, 0.1 does not add up to 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the sum of those numbers tell me Jefferson has made all of the difference in the product of the students it creates. And I would strongly encourage the board to at least allow individuals who would have the decision or opportunity to go to Mitchell to consider letting the students currently enrolled there matriculate.
thank you, Dr. Reed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next item, it is board correspondence. Do we have any board correspondence?
I can share, we had some applications for the student board member, so we're looking forward to getting some interviews scheduled in February.
Awesome, thank you.
I guess
Any
just
other?
a quick question. Have we heard any more about the First National Challenge game?
We have.
Oh,
This
So the game is scheduled for the last Friday of this month. And, are we asking because we're looking for?
Well, you know, the board always
was
loves
gonna-
to attend and support our students, so, you
Yes,
know.
of course. So I was gonna say it during my superintendent's report, but I'm happy to say it now.
Oh, well, we can wait if you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll repeat it again during superintendent's report. Last Friday of the month, the girls begin, the young ladies play at 6, I believe, and the young men are 7:30. And we will be at the Convocation Center at NIU. We expect everyone to be there with your blue and orange, black and orange. I was watching a game last night, sorry. If everybody watched the Notre Dame game last night. Anyway, I digress. So we wanna make sure you're wearing your colors and supporting our kids and making sure that we're winning. So I'll remind us and I'll say the right thing the next time I say it. Thank you.
All right, any other board correspondence? No? Okay, all right, in student board correspondence, Ari, just anything you would like to add?
Jenna is still great.
I concur. All right, thank you again, and thank you to everybody that applied for the student board position. We look forward to reviewing those applications and then posting hopefully some awesome interviews with our students. The next item is consent agenda, approved consent agenda items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items 5B through 5G, board minutes 1/7/25, personnel action items, purchase order requisition, payroll for December, accounts payable for January, and financial reports as attached. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Casey Ramirez.
Yes.
Kathleen Benner.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next is item A, presentations, MOY strategic plan update. And that is being presented to us by a team of the whole team. Our directors,
Ms. Parker and
Ms. Parker,
Dr. Noel.
Dr. Null, Billy Wormel.
And the
I
whole
have here-
team.
So we're gonna.
So everybody, the whole
We're
team.
going to do the. Oh, sorry. So we're gonna start with the actual middle of the data. I will tell you the data looks different because usually we have used data from the map as well as like standardized state data. We also have some local data that we're very excited that comes directly from us talking to parents via surveys and things of that nature. So you'll see those as well. And for our community, it's going to be new, but going forward, we would like to bring more information in like this for you. And then at a later time, the cabinet members will come before you.
Yeah, we're excited. And I'm sure regular attendees of board meetings have heard me say many times, we want to make sure to include qualitative data and not just continually privilege our quantitative data. So we took our qualitative survey and then turned it into charts and made it quantitative, because that's a lot faster than running through a bunch of the answers. But we are going to start with some highlights from the middle of the year. So I'll scroll to the highlights. Okay, thank you. First, we have multidisciplinary units, MDUs, that are being implemented in our monolingual classes at the elementary level to more closely mirror our dual language classes. And it was actually a question that came to us from our strategic plan committee. What's that look like for our students that have had that for a couple of years now? So our current fourth graders, the class of 2034, you see their data on here from the last 8 testing sessions. That first chunk of data, the first 3 bars, are those students when they were in 2nd grade before they had MDUs. And then the last 5, I guess, are, the middle 3, fall 23, winter 23, and spring 24. That would be their 3rd grade year when they had their first year of MDUs. And then the fall of 24 and winter of 24, that's this year when they were, as they're in 4th grade and they're experiencing their 2nd year of MDUs. We're excited that they appear to be making up some ground. As you can see, we've got we've come down from 55% of students in the red to 43, so that's a pretty significant chunk. We also see students start to struggle with literacy. These are their reading scores. a bit more as they get into those older grades. That's not happening for these kids. And we're excited because this is a harbinger of good things to come. We know the first year of implementation for anything can be a little bit rocky. And so for these kids who are experiencing these units for the first time to be doing this well, that's exciting. So we're pumped to see what happens with our students that are current third graders as well. This is the result of our home reading survey. This was fascinating to me. So what we did was sent out a survey to all families whose students had scored at or above grade level, and then because the parents input the students' 9-9 numbers, we were able to track what is the profile of students and how do different families answer based on their demographics. And we divided up, if you remember, this came from our graph where we saw that 7% of our students who are economically disadvantaged were somehow still in the top quarter percentile of students for reading. We wanted to know why. This is really interesting, especially if you look all the way to the left. 46% of respondents who do not qualify for free and reduced lunch have a mother that has a graduate school degree. When you look at the fact that 11% of women in the United States have a graduate degree, this is remarkable. We know we have a highly educated populace because we're so close to NIU and for many other reasons, but that's really interesting. But we also see that just like all other studies have also shown us, one of the big differences for children, whether they're going to be economically disadvantaged or not, is the mother's level of education. So it's just as true in DeKalb as it has been everywhere else these studies have been done, which is what this tells us. Do you have any questions? I know this is a lot.
No, it's pretty
As
cool.
always, please feel free to stop us at any time. One of the big findings was with the question, how often does your student read for fun at home? So, as you can see, across all economic situations, 2/3 of students almost every day or every day that are doing very well in reading are reading for fun at home. And then again, we've got another quarter that are doing it once a week, not doing schoolwork of any kind, but because they like reading, they're picking up a book or something else and getting reading done at home just because they enjoy it. So that gets you to about 90% of our kids. So we asked ourselves, well, how can we make it so that more of our kids have things they like reading? So briefly, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Betsy and Jill, who are the, I'll let them introduce themselves and use their own titles, as those always tend to trip me up, and they're going to talk about what our plans are for that.
I am Jill Springer. I am the Elementary Humanities Manager, so I am focused on elementary literacy and social studies and a few other things, but right now we're talking about literacy.
And I do Jill's job at the secondary level, so same thing, secondary.
So as Dr. Nall has illustrated, our students engage in at-home literacy activities to varying degrees. Some of our students read every day at home. Other of our students rarely pick up text outside of school. The Teaching and Learning Department for the past 3 years has been very focused on providing professional development, and our teachers have begun implementing curricula and instructional practices that more closely align to reading research. And those instructional practices have mostly focused on providing our students with the ability to read. But we know that there's a whole other side to becoming a proficient reader, and that is the desire to read. And so we need to start looking at how do we grow readers who enjoy reading for pleasure and for information gathering.
Because we know too that when students are reading independently at home, they're doing things that support their academic learning, like expanding their vocabulary, exposing themselves to diverse texts, and really beginning to critically think about things that they're interested in. So we wanted to work together with the community. Jill and I are working on reviving, if you've been around a while, the iCrow project, which Jill actually started before the pandemic.
I crow about books.
Yes, iCrow about books. Sorry, we know what we're crowing about. And it's a really multifaceted program that involves the public library, classrooms, and then our school libraries as well to create a community of literacy. And we feel that between the combination of the mechanics of reading and the solid instruction that we're providing, and then we're layering on top of that a love of reading and a community that supports literacy as part of our being, that's really going to be what closes the gap for our students. That's it.
Thank you both. So one thing we know that parents are doing that's closing the gap for students, independent of their economic situation, is reading to their children before kindergarten. So here you can see 43%, and this chart is simply our parents who fall into the qualify for free and reduced lunch category. They're reading to their children every day or 2 to 4 days a week, and we're seeing that pay dividends. So those are the students who are meeting with success when they get to school, when we start testing those literacy skills. So we would strongly encourage that habit continue for all of our families. This one I just included because I find it hysterical. We asked the parents, are you a good reader? Is your child good at reading because you are? And the parent responding to the survey, 70% of them gave themselves 5 points out of 5. Yes, I'm an excellent reader. And then we asked them, what about the parent who's not filling out the survey? And as you can see, they were like, well,
It's all on me.
they're okay. So I just find this one very funny. Next, we want to talk about freshmen on track. One area that we need to do a better job of is including our high school students and all of the great work that's going on at DHS. So we want to talk a little bit about freshmen on track, and because we haven't discussed it in this setting previously, just so you know, 9th grade on track is one of the measures that factors into our summative designations, which are crucially important to us. So at DeKalb High School, 8.33% of our summative designation comes from this measure of how many of our freshmen appear to be in a position to graduate on time in their 9th grade year. And this is why it's critically important. Freshmen on track is more predictive of a student's likelihood of graduating from high school than their race, socioeconomic status, and prior achievement combined. So if you want to know whether a student is likely to graduate on time, you have to look at how are they doing in their first year of high school. And that metric, that graduation rate, makes up 50% of our summative designation. So even if you can scoff at the 8.33, which you should not, that 50% is really what's going to drive our designation. And because one is predictive of the other, we really need to be paying attention to both. This is our freshman on track rate over time, and I know that Dr. Larson and Mr. Lewandowski and Sarah Jennings, I was going to say doctor, but that's a tiny bit premature, I think, are all here in case you have any questions that you have about this. But just to go over it, as you look from the first moment that we started paying closer attention to this, 63% of our freshmen were on track to graduate on time in the spring of '22. And as of this fall, we were at 85% before all the measures were complete. That's why there's a plus sign on top of it. Not just a reminder to give blood, it's also because that number will continue to rise. Because 85 is the floor that we're at right now, but students are continuing to using these measures, we are able to continue impacting this change. So great job, team at DHS. They've got students with extended learning opportunities and summative and assignment makeup. Those are things that can happen after the semester to please come back in and get your credit for those classes you were so close to passing. They're using data huddles, re-entry plans when students miss school for prolonged periods of time for whatever reason, case manager meetings, bag reports are important, that's behavior, attendance, and grades. So they're looking at what are the supports that students need to be successful, as well as teacher feedback for what is working. Did I miss anything?
Oh, there's a lot more.
This is just the,
What do you want me to say?
This is just encompassing it.
yeah, just the thumbnail.
Well, I mean, we're doing a couple.
Would you like to come up
Yeah,
here?
come
on.
I mean, okay.
You got this.
You
got this,
I should
Aaron.
have said no.
But we do a couple things. Other things to highlight is we do a bi-weekly right now meeting with the freshman class where we bring them to the auditorium. We do different things. We bring in counselors. I'm up there. We brought in social workers to talk about SEL stuff, peer conflict. So we're doing a lot with that. I think we've seen a lot of things because they come and tell me like, hey, can I do that prep recovery? Which without that, they probably wouldn't know a lot of those things. So that's helped a lot. We are doing a student peer mediation as well. So we're taking some of our juniors and seniors, and whenever we have a conflict between students, I refer it to one of our social workers who then the junior, senior works with those two kids to do some peer mediation, so involving the older kids. We're also starting BOB days, which is Barb's on break and B's are better. So if students are having B's are better, there's like a period, a month that the content area gets, so they go into the auditorium, they get to just hang out and take a break, celebrate them a little bit, and then we kind of involve some reteaching with those students that are struggling, because reteaching is one of the tough things to do, so we kind of are helping out the teachers and watching those kids for them. But that's a couple of things.
Student empathy interviews.
We're doing a lot of student voice, that's been the push this past year, so we're doing student empathy interviews. We've done Google Forms. We take that information, we share it back with the students, we also then share it with the teachers. That has dictated a lot of the interventions and things we've provided. We found out like SEL is a big thing coming in from 8th grade. We plan on getting FSA into some of those weekly part-time meetings with those, so they can present, help with those SEL stuff. So that's actually dictated a lot of our interventions.
And from a parent perspective, I just want to commend all the work that you all are doing. I have a ninth grader at the high school, well, my only child. I only have one daughter, and she's a ninth grader. And she has been active, you know, since last year when you all initiated a lot of the initiatives with the freshmen on track. And she's only a sophomore, and she's already talking about college courses and, you know, some of the options that she's been talking with her counselor about in regards to the options and opportunities that she has at the high school and, you know, possible programs for the summer. And I mean, she's already thinking college and, you know, of course, some of that I do at home, but a lot of those conversations about courses and classes that she should be taking now are happening already. So I commend a lot of the work that you all are doing. So great job with that.
Thank you.
If it's in their face, you know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Can I ask a
it's
quick
always-
question before you sit back?
Okay.
What does a student empathy interview entail?
The main focus was a couple things like how's the experience that you have, and then with the school overall, the social aspect, the extracurricular aspect, the PLC, like your classroom. We actually we don't this year, it'll be an end of the year thing. We just did Google Forms now, but we bring them in and our instructional coaches actually meet with 2-3 kids at a time. We identified different groups, like our Black students, our Hispanic students, our students that are low in attendance, our students that are failing a lot of classes. So we identified different groups to make sure we're getting the actual picture of what's happening at DHS.
I think it's interviews of students to build empathy for the people that are getting the information from them.
Cool. That is all awesome.
A lot of
Thank you.
intentionality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All those words are ones I really like, but I'm like, what do they mean together in this context? So thank you.
So as a point, our empathy interviews are happening all around the district, as well as administrators are shadowing students. So they take a typical student and they, from the bus to the bus, they shadow them that day and just pretend to be that student for the day, and then often debrief with that student either at the end of the day or the next day about was that a typical day for you, and also engage in empathy interviews after the fact.
That's awesome.
The rest of the data will be a format that you're more similar with. I know you've had access to the information, and anyone who is following along at home can also find it on board docs. So we'll go through it somewhat more quickly since we've highlighted some of the things that we're excited about and that involve new information. This is our suspension report that you're used to seeing by percentage of students in that building who, or at that grade level, who have been suspended at all. It's very, very similar to last year. Again, something that we need to continue to work on is our gap, our race and ethnicity gap with regard to suspensions. We firmly believe we need to continue to concentrate here and make those numbers more equitable. This is our attendance data by building, and then the next one is by grade level. We're at 90% across the district. As always, we see a bit of a dip when students get to the high school and when they're in pre-K. And our middle of the year assessment data, I am gonna go a little slower over the MAP growth because you'll notice that with the exception of 6th grade, that's at 49%, every single grade had 50% or more of students meeting their growth in MAP from winter to winter. So I believe that's the first time we've been able to say that. That's very exciting. And again, just as a quick reminder, because I know it all kind of blends together, the orange bars are like a light switch on and off. Did the students meet that goal that MAP sets for them, or did they not? And the black bars represent the total growth that students made. So students who were close to making it but didn't quite get there, their growth still counts. And students who were supposed to grow 5 points and grew 15, we get to count those 15 points as well. So we're very excited, especially as you look at 7th grade, 8th grade, 2nd grade, where we're really, our national growth percentile is quite high. We're making good strides. In ELA, it's a tiny bit more up and down, but again, we've got a number of our grade levels at or around the 50th percentile, where I think we're doing a very good job of closely tracking when we implement something, figuring out whether it's leading to growth for our students, so we'll always keep an eye on that. Now, the next several slides are the MAP reading percentile groups. This is K-5 district-wide. This is the breakdown you're used to. This is over time, fairly static. This is by grade. Again, that 4th grade group is the first group to have our MDUs. You can see where it looks like it's working and hopefully will continue to do so. reading percentile groups by race and ethnicity, and then the next slide is by socioeconomic status. So again, places we know we need to close the opportunity gap, and we're constantly looking for ways to do so. These are our MAP reading Spanish scores for K-5. Again, just a reminder that many of our students who take these tests are part of the two-way dual language program and do not have any exposure to Spanish outside of school. So again, relatively static over time. By grade level, you'll see in 5th grade, those are the students who are one way, so all of those students have Spanish language background. None of them are English only speakers at home, which is why we see that difference. And then this is our most equitable data in the district. So our dual language program is eliminating the opportunity gap for students that are economically disadvantaged, which is great. This is same charts, but for math. So K-5 district-wide, we are making some progress over time. We want to make more. This is by grade, by race and ethnicity, and by economic status. We move then to 6th through 8th grades, same charts, different kids. This is our middle school band. Here's our reading groups. And you can see here too, we've got somewhat static data over time, but if you go to the next one, by grade, you can see that by the time they're leaving us and heading to the high school, we're seeing shifts. Students are closer to where we want them to be. Obviously, there's still room for us to grow. And by race and ethnicity, we need to close those gaps, as well as the economically disadvantaged gap for economically disadvantaged students. And same one in Spanish. By the time they're in middle school, you can just keep scrolling. As always, we like to mention that once students reach a certain level of literacy, they no longer take the test because they pass the access test, and then they're no longer taking the Spanish reading test, so keep that in mind. But again, here by the time they're in 8th grade, we're seeing numbers that are looking closer to where we want them to be. And then I believe the next one will be math for middle school students, so across all of the grades, over the last 5 testing periods, by grade. And here's one I will pause on. This is our algebra students. So for the first time, we've separated out the students that are taking algebra. We have some students in 7th grade that would be accelerated 2 grade levels, and some in 8th grade that are taking high school level algebra. And you can see that our math students that have been identified as high performers are definitely showing that when they take the MAP test. So these are outstanding numbers, obviously, but it also says to us that what we want to do is continue to identify students who can be in 7th grade. And it's fine to be in algebra and be at the 50th percentile. You're still being exposed to a more rigorous curriculum. So we're going to continue looking for other ways to accelerate students so that we have even more students who are benefiting from this rigorous math instruction. And this is broken down by race and ethnicity and by income status. I think that's it. Do you have any questions now? Or certainly you could always come back to it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll kick it off. I'm here. I'm Monica Parker. I have the pleasure of serving our district as a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for visitors and for community members. This attachment is available for anyone to see. And in your board document, I'd like to just start off by just saying good evening. I'm here today to provide a mid-year update on the work being done, what has been completed so far up until the middle of the year for the DEI department. I want to highlight a few things. I want to highlight, first of all, and draw to your attention that our department, my department, plays a very unique role within our district. Members of our team are the only individuals in our district performing their core duties. That means that we are responsible for a variety of specialized tasks that no one else is currently addressing, which allows us in our standalone functions to not only be essential to our mission, but to touch all of the other departments. And it emphasizes that DEI is not a siloed initiative or a theory, but is integrated, thankfully, into the fabric of everything that we do here in DeKalb. So our efforts continue to intersect with curriculum, with development, with teaching and learning, with student services, with HR, teacher professional development, school leader professional development, and what has been more groundbreaking over the last 3 years is our family engagement. We do all of this to have immeasurable impact on student success, so that we know that all of our students feel seen, valued, and supported in their educational journey in DeKalb School District. I'd also like to recognize that bringing on a cultural coach has been absolutely tremendous. The amount of work that she has done to go above and beyond this past few months, as she has collaborated with leadership teams at 4 of our elementary schools, because as you know, we're gonna have 9, and it's only one of her. But she's providing targeted professional development and support with teachers and with school leaders. She does work directly with teachers, in which she helps them implement strategies, not only culturally responsive, but also to build connections with the students in front of them. She has thankfully has tons of education experience, over a quarter of a century of experience that she brings, and a lot of her experiences right here in our school district. So she brings that experience as she challenges teachers to face sometimes the inner themselves, and she offers practical and actionable advice and support. Her work has empowered educators with tools and strategies that they implement immediately, and in most cases with her standing right alongside them, even in a co-teaching or co-lesson planning situation. Lastly, I want to touch on a very personal highlight for me this year as a director. One of the most complex and rewarding tasks I have ever had in the field of education of 26 years is working alongside many diverse groups of stakeholders and our demographer to curate proposed new attendance areas. I never thought that I would ever know about geocoding, or that I would ever know about pivot tables, or that I ever needed to know about those things. But it has given me invaluable insight in data analysis, which is one of the goals that I had listed as a top priority for the Department of DEI. Guess what? I got it. I got that goal already, because we are learning, I was able to learn about geographical trends and the real world impact of decisions that we have, that we make every day, that's going to directly impact all of our students, all of our families, including 9 of my blood relatives who are members of our great community. The work expanded my leadership abilities and reinforced my commitment to DeKalb School District, to our students, big or small. We have kept equity at the forefront of our decision-making. I'm very proud to be the director of DEI here in DeKalb School District, and that's what's going on.
All right, thank you. For the facilities department, the first initiative is the student achievement, and as you would think, facilities doesn't always have a direct connection when it comes to student achievement, but the things we do involve is relating to creating that more space for our staff and students to make sure that it is appropriate for their learning environment. The big one we all know is Mitchell Elementary. Excited to say that it is, on track, on schedule, and currently under budget. So I'm excited to have that coming open this year, as well as the renovation projects. Many are in front of you tonight for approval, to take some spaces and make them a purpose for another space. We do this almost every year, evaluate throughout our buildings what needs to change so that we can be ready for the next school years. So that's coming forward tonight to you also. For community engagement, we have been, we continue to try to figure out ways to improve the use of our buildings for our communities. I'm working closely with Principal Maurice McDavid, talking about ways that we could do some things as Mitchell is opening, still scratching the surface of what that'll look like. I'm sure more will be coming on that, as well as working on a software with Joe Lifshitz, our auditorium and facility use manager, to ensure that we are getting the software rolled out. We've been trying to get in place for a while and hope to have that coming forward soon. The financial stability with the equity lens, that one really ties back to our projects and our capital improvement plan and overseeing the opening of the new building. As the projects get approved for 2025, we'll be revising the 5-year plan. So make sure we're staying on track and keeping those things in front of us. And the last is in regards to recruitment and human capital recruitment. For that, we did just recently have the retirement of Steve Lavendar, our day custodial supervisor. Logan Halstead was hired and has been working with us since November, is already establishing relationships with our staff and seems to be going very well. Looking forward to continuing working with him. This year, Jeff Potter, our maintenance and ground supervisor, is going to be retiring in December, so more information will be coming forth on that. We'll be looking for how we'll be replacing his position in regards to how that succession plan will come together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for the business office department, it's been very challenging with all the new inflation, cost of doing business has increasing, a lot of challenges. But as a mid-year, we had a lot of major projects and accomplishments. We signed a FDOS contract, and we're working with 2 additional negotiations with unions. And we're doing it in a financially responsible and within the board parameters. The financing of the construction projects for both the Beyond One Barb and the Mitchell Elementary has had no hiccups, so that's always an accomplishment. And as Tammy mentioned, under budget, so we're doing well in that end. We have worked closely with the city of DeKalb to enter our revenue agreement with the creation of the TIF South 4th Street. And today, we will talk about replacing our old minibuses and get 5 new ones through a bid process and expanding our minibus fleet to meet our current new demands. And the last one is we adopted a tax levy that provided some savings out-of-pocket taxes for homes that have increased values on average on the DeKalb city. So this is from the business department.
Thank you.
Great. For student services, I'll kind of piggyback on the money trend. When we look at financial stability with an equity lens, one of the things we're most proud of this year is the amount of grant funds that we've been able to secure. State level grants that flow through from federal level, but also more local funds or through state organizations that have allowed us to do some things for students. Probably most importantly, and this ties into another one of our goals, which is establishing and maintaining partnerships. We've been able to secure a partnership with Daybreak Health through grant funding that's allowing us to provide free access to teletherapy for students and then family for the next 2 years. So really excited about that. When it comes to student achievement, one of the things that we've really focused on this year is the implementation of high leverage practices with special education teachers, related service staff, with students with disabilities. And we've utilized PLCs this year to really focus in on those concepts. So we're really excited about the progress we've made and we'll be able to build upon for future years. And then when we look at recruiting and retention, one of the ways we look at that is early careers, special educators, for example. How are we providing them the skills they need to be successful at the job? Whether that be going to some professional development externally or internally, having ongoing coaching and different conversations about what they do in the classroom. So we've been able to do that this year through consultant Lisa Gorschels, working directly with staff and administrators. But we've also been able to start planning for what will be our 2nd annual, I don't know what we're gonna call it, summer summit, in which we really take time and we get really in the grain or in the details about special education with those that are the experts in district. So we look forward to planning that for the summer.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is teaching and learning. Billy and I will divide and conquer. I'll do goals 1 and 2, and he'll do 3 and 4. So our first one, as you'll see, has 3 goals under academic rigor for the strategic plan. The middle school social studies standards and units with common assessments are on track and will be finished by June of 2025. That's very exciting. The middle school English language arts curriculum had been piloted. Soon you guys will hear about our request to adopt it and purchase the curriculum. For that is focused on rigor, standards, alignment, and small group instruction, which we've spent the last 2 years providing professional development on in anticipation of new curriculum. In that, at the elementary, they focused on mastery of learning data and collection for skills that align with the decoding triangle. The second goal for the strategic plan 1 goal was focused on instructional data. The common summatives with the MDUs at the elementary are going along very well, and the middle school and the high school humanities will be done in the June of 2025 as well. And then the high school, as you've learned through the Freshmen on Track and the graduation rates, has focused on whole group data disaggregation in addition with their PLC data. And then the third is the 2A dual language. That's on track with a roll-up. Fourth grade is near completion. The high school has separated the world language department to support our Ls to target their needs. And then for strategic plan goal 2, we had the community engagement and partnerships. As you know, through the various board meetings, there are many things that we have going on. The parent engagement nights through our schools, PD list with NIU, which is professional development, extensive, expanding the dual credit with Kishwaukee College. The high school has regular monthly Tuesday meetings with their parents and open topics. And we also have, of course, the NIU STEAM for secondary and partnerships with the Historical Society, Elwood House, and Library and the Farm Bureau, to name a few. I'm sure there's some others out there. I'll turn it over to Billy.
Good evening, everyone. For strategic priority 3, the financial stability and equity lens, one of the things with our grant manager we've been able to establish is a process of how we're prioritizing using our monies. So one of the things when you're in designation, the state really limits to what you can spend on. So working with our grant manager, Emma, we've been able to establish a similar process. So we go through our building principals and they work with their staff and their school improvement teams to see what are the priorities that they need to use with our grant money. So we've done that very well. I know for strategic priority 4, our human capital and recruitment, development, and retainment, it's got a little check. It says establish and oversee a seamless hiring process for opening of Mitchell School. I won't say it's seamless. I'll put a little strike through seamless. It was a little bit of a learning, right, process that we had to go through. So definitely was not seamless. We found that we had to communicate a couple things that we were not on our radar. But we worked through those and we're moving forward and continuing to hire for Mitchell. Any questions?
Thank you.
Good evening. So from the technology department perspective, we've met and exceeded our goals so far. So in terms of student achievement, continuing our one-to-one program success is kind of key. It's probably one of our most equitable integrations within the district. And our partnership with Google is very strong. We were actually allowed to join a couple pilot programs, including the Gemini AI program, which that platform aligns with the guidance that was shared with the board previously. So we've been able to open that up for high school students and all staff. So it's a more advanced AI platform that has allowed people to get their feet wet in large language models and even some advanced modeling if they wish. All with keeping costs in check, so it didn't cost us anything more. Community engagement and marketing, we've been working very collaboratively with our communications coordinator and working on hiring the multimedia specialist position. So those interviews are going to be happening at the end of the month here, and we're very excited on how that's going to come out. We're looking forward to that FTE. We also integrated our mass communication system, Parent Square, which has been a success that has allowed us to be a little bit more agile in terms of how we communicate with our families and stakeholders. From a financial stability and equity lens perspective, we have definitely been collaborating a lot with the business department. I'm sorry, Amir. But yeah, as we've seen the increase in things like the threats of tariffs and continually seeing the costs increasing, trying to mitigate our risks as much as possible, getting the one-to-one Chromebook rotation in front of you guys as soon as we did was really key. We were hearing from districts just neighboring us that did not get it in advance, and they are seeing already increased costs to the exact same product we're purchasing. Priority 4, human capital and recruitment. Again, working with the technology staff on their professional development. I have 2 staff who've really stepped up on their professional development and are kind of filling in the shoes of where we had our network engineer retire just 2 years ago, who've really stepped up to get their Cisco certification. So I'm really excited to see where some of our own in-house, homegrown staff are going and what they can produce next. So, thanks.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And we got HR pulling up the rear here, so, school districts are all about the people business, so that's what we do. HR weaves in and out of everything that we do, whether it's hiring or retaining staff, benefits, workers' compensation, contract negotiations, we can go on and on. But our work lives in strategic priority 4, human capital recruitment, development, and retainment. So we continue to maximize the efficiencies of our systems to streamline our processes. We're focusing a lot on systems because we needed to create efficiency. We needed to meet the needs of our customers, internal and external, faster and more accurately than we were. So we had a regional office audit that revealed that we had some work to do. And in that, we have added some new systems, bridged some systems that allow us to create efficiency and to maintain our data in a more efficient way. We've also added HR specialist to our team. Thank you to the board for that, because we wanted to divide the work that is done between our certified and our classified staff members. So that, along with so many other things, we are working towards meeting our goals. We have met some, but we continue to work towards them. Thank you.
As the staff is standing out there, I just want to make sure that I say something that's very important. So Deetra started off with HR is in the business of people, but the district is in the business of people. We're little people, big people, all kinds of people. But none of that work could be done without the people that are standing up and the ones that are sitting down that have made sure that we are doing the work that we need to do and that we're centering children in all of that. So I am very grateful, and I show you guys off all the time. Whether I speak your name or I speak to the work that's being done, there isn't anything that DeKalb can't do, and we do it well. And just think about what we've been able to do in the last 3 years that hadn't been done before or couldn't get done, and is now being done at a different level. And that couldn't happen without all of the people that are out there, and definitely here at these tables to make sure that it happens. So I'm a very appreciative superintendent. Thank you for everything that you do.
And we concur with everything that she just said. So thank you. Thank you for everything that was presented today as well. All right, any questions? All right, thank you. Okay, all right, so then we're gonna move on to, yes, for everybody that wants to go home. Your presentations are going, this is not the time.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so.
That's okay, Chuck.
It's okay, it's okay.
The ones that need to hear you are staying.
All right, old business, item A. Item A, Iditarod Educators Conference amended, this is an information action item. There's only a small information, it is an action item, I should say, but it is information because Billy found some money for one of the requests that Chris had last time, if you all remembered. He requested that both of them. Everybody okay over there? That we try to find some money if possible to provide separate accommodations when it came to room accommodations for the people that were in attendance or that were attending the conference. And basically, from what my understanding, Mr. Wermo has allocated some of those fundings out of the grants that we have. So we were able to make that accommodation. So I just wanted to make note of that before we move on to the actual voting of it. Okay, so with that said, item A, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the 2 educators to attend the Iditarod Educators Conference as attached. Is there a motion?
Second.
Roll call?
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, MOU with American Institutes for Research. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the MOU with American Institutes for Research. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Thank you. Item C, request to bid Waste Recycling Services, this is an action item. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve administration to go out to bid for the district's waste and recycling services. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D, DCTA program, course approval, salary schedule, credit, and CWC course approvals. This is an action item. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the college program courses and/or CWC courses as recommended by the Professional Relations Committee.
So moved.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Roll call?
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Thank you. Item E, new course proposal, DHS Dual Credit College Algebra, MAT 150. This is an action item. Let me see. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the new course for dual credit college algebra, KCC MAT 150 at DHS for the 2025-2026 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes. Thank you. Item F, bid results, district renovations. This is an action item brought to us by Ms. Tammy Carson. I don't know why I have that note up there, but let me see. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following. The renovation base bid number 1 and alternate bid number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 in the amount of $777,100 to light construction of Montgomery, Illinois. The bid for Lincoln asbestos abatement in the amount of $19,500 to Able Plus Service Incorporated of Gilbert, Illinois. The bid for HMS asbestos abatement in the amount of $48,985 to Spectrum Environmental to Crown Point, Indiana. The bid for Little John asbestos abatement in the amount of $124,850 to Spectrum Environmental of Crown Point, Indiana. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes. Thank you. Item A, future elementary school updates. Well, you presented the updates, so we need more updates. Okay, thank you. All right, item A under new business administration. Item A, student discipline, student number 012125. This is an action item. It is recommended that the Board of Education uphold the suspension of student number 012125. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Daisy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, new attendance areas for 2025-2026 school year. This is an information item brought to us by Ms. Parker, Dr. No, and Dr. No. Oh,
And we are bringing with us Dr. Coffrin, who is representing Coffrin Demographers. So Dr. Coffrin is going to start off, and then Jessica and I will jump in. Okay?
Great, thank you.
How about I do the thing for you?
Oh, that'll be just fine. I've been given 3 minutes. 3 minutes to summarize 4 years of work. But anyway, let me try
a little longer.
Let me try to do that. Back in 2021, the district, the superintendent's been saying. Back in 2021, the district came out with an RFP that I responded to along with Cordigan Clark and Associates. That RFP dealt with the assessment of the 2017 demographic study that the district did. It also required me to develop enrollment forecasts by attendance areas, assess the effects of COVID-19 on enrollments, and analyze population and housing trends in the district. That report is italicized. It was delivered in April of 2022. That was my geodemographic study in the final report. Cordigan Clark handled the business of determining building capacities. They surveyed each of the schools. looking at the elementary, middle, and high schools. They came up with recommendations for handling growth based on my enrollment projections, and that was summarized in a report called Space Needs, Space Utilization, and Building Capacity Study of June 14, 2022. In 2023, the district contracted with me to modify enrollment projections, which would take into account building attendance areas, include fall 2020 student records, and also update births in my projection model with data from the Illinois Department of Public Health. The result of that was a series of, two reports. One was the methodology that went behind the merging of attendance areas for enrollment projections and cohort survival rate analysis in January, and also the updated report with 2022 resident enrollments, 2020 and 2020 births submitted in July 2023. And then in 2024, this last year, I was tasked to update enrollment projections with 2023 fall student records and 2022 calendar year births. Refine planning area geography, which if I had some time, I could get into a little bit. Develop at least one redistricting scenario using building proximity as the main planning parameter for assigning students to schools. And recommend a redistricting process, which I've outlined in a website that's there for your perusal if you choose to take it. Oh, I'm out of time.
Go on.
Okay. We were also, in 2024, about halfway through, Dr.
Not yet, but go on.
Dr. No.
Dr. No.
Doctors, all of us, we were adding I was told to add a new building to the mix of redistricting scenarios. So what I did was we processed 2024 student records. In that processing, we put them on the district's base map, and then interactively over 3 or 4 different meetings, which included the superintendent, we assigned students to planning areas, and then we started moving pieces around to see what would fit the best based on those planning capacity numbers that were developed by Cordigan and Clark in 2021. We had, again, these interactive mapping meetings, which were very, very useful. One of which sticks out to me where we had the principals in. I think that was the November 21, 22 meeting, where they had a chance to take a look at these boundaries and also make suggestions. The maps were finalized on December 21, and we provided those maps to the board for today's meeting. And I'll turn it over to
All right, thank
my
you.
colleagues.
Here you are. As Dr. Cochran said, we have met with him via phone or virtual meetings or in person at least a dozen times at this point. That's why I'm very comfortable reminding him not to tell our business in public. So I'll tell you some of the major shifts that happened with the proposed map. So this is information, it will have to come back to action by February 4th. As you all know, we need to get together forms in cumulative, which is what we're using to register. And in order for us to have our registration process not delayed, we need to have it for action February so that we can begin to communicate with impacted families. Dr. Null will give you more information about some details. I'll tell you really what you see. This has been shared publicly. It is on our website. We have had 2 meetings, one hybrid, where we were able to share a proposed map, a drafted map, and then we got some feedback, we made some changes, and then we came out with this proposed map in which we had 2 community meetings since we came back to school from the winter break. The major changes that you're going to notice is we are centering neighborhood schools. That is our priority. So our demographer said that we are using proximity, of course, because we want students to be able to go to the schools that are closer to their house if it's possible. We are trying to keep neighborhoods together. So in the previous map, the one we're currently using, we had a lot of situation where elementary students were overflowed, and as you know, our elementary classrooms are pretty full at 28 students. So I was asked by a family member who also is a community member who has a child who will more than likely be changing schools next year. Well, why does this have to happen anyway? Can't you just, I said, well, we're at a new school. Well, do you have to fill up the new school next year? That was a serious question because I know that it's impacting her and she has some concern about her son leaving the first grade at a school that she loves. What we do see is we use natural and man-made boundaries to be more of to help us understand where students are going. For instance, we had Little John, who prior to this proposed map, currently, if you lived across 4th Street, you could still attend Little John, which is prohibitive to you walking to school, although you might only be like 0.3 miles or 0.1 mile away from your school. We also have a portion of a very densely populated area in our city, which was divided by 4 or 5 schools. We now have 3 schools in that area. Again, it is because it's very densely populated. I'll tell you how densely populated. If you look at that itty bitty teal blue, right there, it's itty bitty teal blue section of geography, that represents 71 students. 71 students live in that very small, which is actually only 2 apartment buildings. So we had to ensure that in order for us to even out numbers, that we divided things in another way. You'll see some bigger impacts to the Lincoln boundary. Lincoln boundary now includes 2 neighborhoods that are right next to each other that previous to now in current maps, we actually split those 2 neighborhoods up. And those 2 neighborhoods, you can stay right across the street from a person and you would go to a totally different elementary school. So those are some of the bigger changes that you'll see, and Dr. Hall will talk to you about more.
Just a couple of things I want to highlight. You'll see that the maps say monolingual maps. Our students who are in the dual language program, we don't anticipate changes at all to the dual language maps for elementary because we haven't added a dual language building. So this only impacts students that are in our monolingual program. Also, students who are in specialized programs where they spend most of their day in a self-contained special education classroom, those programs are staying stable. They're simply not impacted by these boundaries. They will attend the program appropriate for them, not the building that is within the boundary where they live. Talk about that?
Yeah, I'll put my spin on it really quick. The decision that's made about the attendance boundaries, that'll happen ultimately in early February, will ultimately be the first domino to fall when we look at where our self-contained programs are going to be housed next year. We are planning on a shuffle for some of our programs to make them more equitable in terms of where they're located, space, things like that. And we also designed the new elementary school with special education in mind as well, so we'll be making some shifts with that. So all contingent upon the ultimate attendance boundary decision.
Just to be clear, no one who participated in any of this work took any of it lightly whatsoever. Education is serious business, but because we know the question may come up, we wanted to make sure to point out these are the number of students who will be moving for next year. So if you look at the orange bars, those are the total moves. But keep in mind, that's because we've got approximately 450 students who will be attending a brand new school. So all of those students who will be at Mitchell had to come from somewhere else. Does that make sense? Mr. Boyce, do you have a question?
Just in the green section that would be going to Tyler, I'm just curious, I'm thinking that's where the CVS and Molly's and all of that is, but what is that white square?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
And we can go back, I think Chuck actually pointed it out and said we have to color that in. There are a couple of places where NIU's campus, for example, no one lives there and no one is going to live there. We attempted to find all of them to make sure it was clear, but we first colored in the places where students live. But yes, that's a place where no one can reside.
Okay.
Yeah, it did throw me too. There were a couple of others that we saw, and then I just
Like
had
the
to.
lagoon area.
Yeah, the lagoon.
No one can live in the lagoon, but who knows? And I don't know.
Right, I mean, that's where I think it helps to be long-term DeKalb residents like Monica Net and I are proud to be, because we can point to it and go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's why there's no kids there, because no one lives there. Do you have any other questions at this? Yes.
One more
Sure.
question. So with students that fall under the McKinney-Bento Act, how do we determine allocation on where they would go in the district since they don't have a residential address we're basing it?
Actually, the laws regarding McKinney-Bento provide for that. So there's a number of options for those students, including the school they most recently attended and the school that falls in the boundaries of where they're currently living that would be most convenient to go to. We work through each of those situations
On a
case-by-case basis, but nothing about our boundary lines would impact our ability to follow that federal law. But thank you for asking. Just to return very briefly to these numbers, the orange is ultimately the total number of students who will remain in that building who were in the building this last year, but the blue is the moves that are unimpacted by Mitchell opening. So you'll see it's not that students are not moving only because Mitchell opened. Because we are now attempting to draw boundary lines to create neighborhood schools, we are undoing some of the things that were done previously that were relatively, I don't want to cast aspersions on any work that was done previously, but they seem illogical to me as someone who prefers simple geometric shapes. So we do want to avoid cutting it into like a box of Trivial Pursuit pieces that was flipped upside down, and to make it a bit more whole. So as Monica was saying, people don't live across the street from someone who is attending a different school unless it's because they're part of our dual language program or in one of our self-contained special education classrooms, which of course will still be the case. At this point, do you have other questions we can speak to?
With these changes, how does that impact busing? Are we gonna see a reduction in busing and an increase in busing? Because that would be expenses that would impact the district.
So, in theory, not only in theory, we know for a fact for the 450 students right now that will be going to Mitchell that are currently being bused, they will no longer need to be bused. So we will see a decrease there. I am not sure if the special education shift will increase a portion of busing for specialized busing. So I couldn't give you a definitive answer, but I will tell you for about 480 students, about 480-ish students, they are able to walk to school.
So that's how many bus routes is that, 10?
It's about that, yep.
About 10 bus routes. And I know that our mayor, as well as his department, as well as working with First Student, they have been working diligently to ensure that the bus routes that we have are necessary. And even adding a bus route, we had to add one at one of our elementary schools, which is Malta, and that was truly because of overcrowding, and that was because our students, it was determined that them getting to school with a right mind, and not being so flustered was extremely important for us not to have 3 students to a seat riding all the way to Malta. But that was a lot of deliberation, and we really tried to avoid it, but we only add bus routes when we really have to do it.
And just a tiny caveat, it's not that we don't want to give a definitive answer to these things, but numbers like this and answers to your bus question are always going to be approximate, because until our students register, we simply don't know. And because even if we say, for example, we'll have about 450 students at Mitchell, if we had 85 of those students in one grade level, we would have to do some figuring out of what to do, because we want to make sure our class sizes stay at 25. We don't unfortunately get them neatly proportioned into the grade levels that they exist. So this is with the help of Dr. Coffrin and our best thinking caps, this is our best approximation for the information that we have at the moment.
And we try to include the perspective of parents, the perspective of community members, as well as every elementary principal, school leaders, assistant principals. So it was, I dare not stand up here and act like it was just even the 3 of us. There are over 50 people that contributed to this process.
And then I know when we were talking about building Mitchell and where we were talking about building it, the whole thing was the community there and needing the need to walk. So my concern is, you have that small 71 students in that blue section being bused all the way. Why wouldn't we look at Jefferson, or why wouldn't we look at boundaries within, what do we've got here, Tyler, and why are we taking them and we're busing them across town?
You can answer it. I would, the simple answer, and I'm not trying to minimize it, is numbers. It's the fact that it's 71 students, but those 71 students, if they went to, let's say, Mitchell or Jefferson, would put them at a place where from day one, they would be overflowing. And we're trying to make sure that if you buy a house in Jefferson's boundary, what is currently happening in Cortland right now, you could build a house 3 doors down from Cortland, and if your child is in 3 of the grade levels, your child would not go to Cortland. From day one, your child will be overflowed. We're trying to ensure that that's not happening at our elementaries off bat.
Right, we did our best to ensure equity with regard to how close to the cap for each building and each grade level we were. Again, with Chuck's help, we did our very best. I know that looks a tiny bit strange. The best thing I can say to explain it is if you look at our south side of town, we've got 3 elementary schools that I could, I'm not an athlete, but my husband might be able to hit those 3 buildings if he threw a baseball hard enough, right? We don't have that many people living south of town. I happen to live in this giant blue area, and I could give you the names of virtually everyone who lives south of Kesslinger. So we have such huge, sparsely populated areas, and then these incredibly densely populated areas, that it does lead to some things. We're happy that it looks a bit less broken up into tiny chunks, but we got to a point where we simply, that's where the space was, it happened to be at Founders. And those students, because they wouldn't be able to go to Mitchell, none of the other buildings were walkable. So the thinking on that is essentially, if they're going to be on a bus, let's take them to the building where there's space. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does make sense, but going back to the whole purpose of Mitchell.
Yes.
And this, I mean, I was here on the board at the time, and the stress about that community and the ability to walk and to be in their community school, and now you're taking 71 kids and busing them across town. That's where I have a concern, because it's totally going against everything that was talked about for this school. That I'm sharing that, and that's you've probably heard it from the community. And so you're taking kids away from kids that they play with on a very regular basis, and all of those good things. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm saying, you guys obviously worked the numbers and you did the thing, but you've got all these other schools and you're busing them across town.
Right.
When the whole thing about Mitchell was the no busing. And going back 3 years, that was the hugest thing that was stressed, is that parents' lack of abilities and needing to have a community school. And now you're taking 2 apartment buildings and moving them across town.
Right.
That's where I have a concern, because it goes against everything you said this school would be.
Yeah, Mitchell is only so big. We have not built an
I
elementary
understand that,
school.
but I mean, everything you guys talked about what the school would be is now not being, because you're moving 71 kids all the way across town.
Yep.
I mean,
There's a capacity for
Yeah,
every
their
elementary
defense.
school.
I understand, Chris, but you
Founders
don't understand.
is our, I
3
mean-
years ago, 2 years ago, when this was talked about, that was the biggest thing that was stressed, is keeping the kids in the community, allowing parents to be involved, because these parents may not be able to have transportation. So now you have 71 kids. I don't know how many families that is, let's divide it out, 2 families, 2 kids per family, 30-something families, that these parents may not be able to be involved. That was the biggest thing about that community school. And you're throwing it out the window.
But,
That's where I have a concern.
my pushback, I guess, would be those, we were both also on the board when we told them to cut the square footage, because we said it was too much, it was too expensive. So I mean, we can't,
I told them to use the donated land and build a huge school, so.
but either way, I mean,
No, Chris, if you go back and watch the meetings from 2 years ago, that was the biggest push, is that there's a lot of families that don't have transportation.
it was absolutely a
And they
discussion,
could walk
but
down to the schools.
It-
And I'm just saying, I'm advocating, I'm just saying for the community, I'm upset to see one of the biggest things that was advocated for is now impacting potentially 30 to 40 families.
But I guess at this point, we have the space that we have, like, they're not gonna be able to create another 70 students worth of class space. Like, that's just not something they're capable of doing at this point. So I guess unless we're entertaining putting in expansion on our not completed elementary school, I mean, that's where the students can fit with the space that we have. Like, there's nothing they can do about it. And I get your concerns, but
So you're saying there's nothing that could be done?
I mean, if you would like to go and sit down and have a meeting with them to figure out where to put them, you can, but I trust that this is the space that we have. Founders is obviously the largest elementary school after once Mitchell launches. So I mean, that's where we have space to put students. I just don't know what else we can do.
And all I'm saying is for everyone to say, hear and remember, the biggest thing that was advocated for Mitchell was to keep it a community school where parents could be involved. They had the ability to walk, and now we have families being bussed across town, which will impact some families. And all I'm saying is being as involved as that was a big push when this was all talked about 2 years ago, Chris. That's all I'm saying. And it's disappointing.
I see what you guys are talking about. I was not on the board at the time. But I guess what would be interesting to know or to find out would be, how did the population increase between then and now? People move all the time, right? So that
They do, and actually one of the things we see is that especially in our densely populated area, because our current map had, as Monica Net spoke to, 4 or 5 schools, you might move just a few blocks and switch schools, and then move a few months later, and then switch schools again. This will prevent some of that because our areas are closer together, we hope. Amanda, I don't want to dismiss your concerns. I hear it, your passion, and I want you to know, Monica Net spoke to her relatives that are impacted. No one is excited that we don't have 100% happiness for families. I think for every family that is going to be moving, you'll have some families that are very excited about it and some families that are heartbroken. We know our families love our elementary schools. I love my elementary school. We have great schools that people feel comfortable at, and that's wonderful. And I think if we could have come up with some plan that had 100% of our families exactly where they wanted to be without busing them all over the place like crazy, we would have. And so, please know, I hear that you're concerned about those 35 or 40
The biggest push for
families.
Mitchell was keeping it a community school. And to hear that 70+ kids will have to be bused across town is very disappointing to hear. Because that was one of the, we had many meetings, we had many meetings about this. And going around and around, and how the lack of, some families don't have the means for transportation, and how this would be such a big thing. So when I pulled up and looked at, I was very disappointed. If it is what it is, I'm just stressing that I'm disappointed that it has to be this way, because again, some families might be impacted, and that disappoints me.
Right.
That we couldn't make it all happen. And obviously, we can't always do that, but it's just disappointing to see.
Absolutely, and I will tell you, I go on record saying that of all the meetings that we had, this caused me to lose the most sleep. Because now, I'll say this, Mitchell is still a neighborhood school. There, if you look at just a mile walkable radius, it is a true neighborhood school. Because everyone who will attend that school, with the exception of specialized programming, will be able to walk to that school, albeit maybe not on a day like today. But what we did, we simply ran out of room, Amanda. And I can tell you, I spoke to Dr. Minerva Garcia Sanchez about it. I think I called her at home and said, hey, Houston, we have a problem. We don't have any more room. Like, we have so many addresses. We did check with Dr. Coffrin several times. Chuck, run the numbers again. Chuck, run the numbers again. Correct?
I did.
Yeah, what else can we do? How else can we change? We simply cannot change people's addresses. And he and I both found that when he looked at the last 3 years, that block, if you look at like a 6 to 8 block radius, we have the most transient addresses in those addresses. Meaning in the course of the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of those homes change addresses 2 and 3 times. At least, like Dr. Nall said, we will at least be able to keep them in their same home school if they do continue to be transient. But I fully understand, and I commend you advocating for our families.
I think just to say one more thing is that there was also a discussion of reorganizing in a different way. Had we reorganized in a different way where we grouped 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, this would not be a discussion. However, with the timing we have right now, it was too short, too quick to be able to turn something like this
We'll
around.
be busing a lot more kids then.
Well, we would be busing, it would depend, right? But it would be, for the age group would be different, whereas the younger ones would be able to walk, right? So there are, any which way we go with this, somebody's still gonna take, we're not gonna get rid of all of our buses, unfortunately, right? So here's the thing is like, right now, this is what we have. We can continue to look at it to see where we can go with it if we reorganize for a 5, 6, 7, 8 split. If that makes more sense, we can bring it back. But for that to happen, we also have to consider an ELDC that's going to not be at Huntley, because we're gonna need that space. So at the end of the day, we're still talking about, an addition or somewhere else for our ELDC, for our youngest group, our most vulnerable children that are in pre-K and in early childhood. So we're not done advocating, and so I appreciate you saying that, but right now, this is what we can do, and I know it's causing a lot of heartache for some folks, but we're trying to do the best we can for the good of the bigger picture of the district, and then hopefully, as we're moving forward, considering what it might be in the future, is taking into account how that might then fare out for everyone else, right? Because we want to reduce class size at the middle grades, because we want to be fair to all of our teachers and equitable to all of our students, because we want our families to be able to participate at school, because we want all of the things. It's not just about, reducing busing. It's not about that. I'm glad that it's one of the things that helps us, but at the end of the day, it's really about the community. So I appreciate that, and I think that as we consider moving ahead and what we're thinking, we'll definitely bring that conversation back. But unfortunately for now, this is what we have based on the sizes of our schools and the need to make sure that we're equitably distributing across all of our schools, right? We don't want founders to be at a 70% utilization while, Mitchell has 98, right? Because that wouldn't be equitable either. So there's a strict balance, give and take kind of thing. So I just want to make sure that I explain that a little bit more into what we're thinking. So we're always trying to be innovative and thinking moving forward. I appreciate what Amanda has said. I appreciate the questions and all of those things, but I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of it. This isn't the end of it. We'll be coming back to, bring more innovation forward.
Are there any other questions?
Any other questions? No. All right, consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the information. All right, item C, bid results of the request for proposal, RFP for minibuses, brought to us by Mr. Amir Doka. Is an information item, by the way.
Yes. So we went out requesting for bids for our 5 minibuses, and we received 6 bids. We are recommending to go for the model year 2026 Ford E350. It is the lowest new car with a 4-year lease to return cost per year. It's the lowest, and also we've used these Chevys, and there's been a few problems, and we want to try Ford. So it is also, it allows us, if we go over the mileage during the lease term, it is also one of the lowest mileage that they allow and the lowest cost. So it has a lot of pluses. So if you see, we have shared all 6 bid results in there, but again, it is the best, the lowest bidder, and I think we want to try the Ford. So we're bringing this for approval on the next board meeting.
Do we have any questions about it? And I know, thank you for also adding the information that I know Chris had requested regarding like the purchase, the difference between purchasing versus leasing. I think that makes it very helpful because it's clear that it obviously it makes more sense for us to go the leasing way, so.
One thing I do want to note, these buses are not kind of like personal vehicles that we can stretch them for 200,000 miles. Right now, we're at about 60,000 miles for our current buses, and they just break down a lot. So it doesn't make sense for us to kind of purchase them, 4-year lease, and the lease move on to new buses. With the current fleet that we have, we extended the leases simply because there was a supply chain where we just couldn't find the buses. So I do recommend just doing a 4-year lease. It's about $80,000 a year. It's not overburdensome to the district, and we get new vehicles.
Any questions about that?
What is their expected turnaround time once we enter the lease? Are these still like 6 months out, or would this be pretty?
They will be manufactured, and if anything, the minute that we get the approval on February 4th, they are going to hit the button to the factory to build these for us. Our anticipation is to get them by July 1 because the current lease ends June 30, so we have to turn them to the lease owners and try to get these right away. So they are being built.
Any other questions? No? Thanks again. Consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, item D, summer school, ESY regular programming. This is an information item brought to us by Ms. Sarah Montgomery and Mr. Kyle Gertis.
Good evening. It's that time of year again already, looking to the summer and some sunshine and fun times at summer school. So we'll have 3 programs, the ESY, which Kyle can speak to, the middle school STEAM, and then the high school summer school program. So the typical that we have, and it will be paid for between Title I grants and district funds as allowable per the grants. Excited to continue to work with NIU. They will work with us as to what are the standards of focus. They will also bring on a couple of our staff. The feedback has been consistently positive for our students in that program. And then the high school has continued to modify and adjust their summer programming based on student interest and student needs. So they have done a very nice job at doing their best at this point to gauge what their students will need. If there are any tweaks between the FTE numbers, then I would make sure that I let you guys know. We know that the FTE numbers are necessary, but maybe if some kids will need more of one class than another, then we might just shift some subjects over.
Awesome.
Kyle can talk to you about ESY.
Sure. ESY is also known as our extended school year program. It's for students who qualify. There's a certain criteria that they have to meet. Students with an IEP, where they would attend their ESY programming over the summer. The goal of the program is really to maintain skills so they don't lose them over extended periods of time away from instruction. We intend to run our ESY program similar to how we have in the years past, a slight tweak on where we're going to be. We're hoping to occupy the high school as always, Huntley Middle School, Founders Elementary School, and then we're excited we'll be utilizing the Beyond One Barb Transition Center for the first time as well. Right now, we're estimating that we could go up to 250 students. We don't generally ever have that many students in the program. Families have to register, they have to commit to it. Last year, I think we had 146 register, 127 attend. So our numbers could fluctuate as we get a little closer to the summer, but we're gonna go ahead and kind of shoot for that 250 number and then adjust down accordingly. Any questions?
Any questions? No? All right, consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next item is item E, Innovative School Summit PD request. This is an information action item brought to us by Ms. Sarah Montgomery and Dr. Larson. It says Dr. Larson, maybe.
Actually, it's Dr. Larson and Rick, but I'll stand in
Okay.
and assist with this. So they're advocating to go for free to New York in February, and this is professional development that will focus on school climate and culture, at risk, teaching and learning. With really what sparked their interest is that continued on-track work that we've talked about tonight, and then how to support students that may struggle with attendance. getting to school. So they'd really like this. I think it will be an interesting professional development. They're going with KEC, so Kishwaukee Educational Consortium.
Awesome. And it's free, you said, right? There will be no cost attached to it?
No.
Okay. Any questions? All right, consensus to bring this back?
This is info action.
Oh, this is information action. I apologize.
Yes, sorry, due to the timing.
Oh, due to the timing. I apologize for that. Okay, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the request to have one administrator and attend the Innovative School Summits in New York from February 12th through the 15th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Stacy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F, National Student Support System convening grant PD request. This is also an information action item due to time sensitivity. And is it time sensitivity as well? And this is, let me see, also, let me click on this, I don't know why. Is it also submitted by Dr. Donald Larson, presented by Ms. Sarah Montgomery?
Yes, thank you. Again, another free PD. This is with GRAD, which is an acronym, but it's a consortium of resources coming together on how to support students through data disaggregation, helping with the PLCs, again, some of their freshmen on track, work and graduation rate. And this is in Indianapolis, Indiana. Again, information action because it is in February and they have to register like now or they'll miss the opportunity.
Okay. All right, any questions about that? No? Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the 2 DHS building administrators to attend the Grad PD February 25th through the 26th, 2025 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Roll call?
Ariel Owens.
Yes.
Christopher Boyce.
Yes.
Stacy Ramirez.
Yes.
Amanda Harness.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Steve Byers.
Yes.
Thank you. Item G, staffing request, increase ELDC principal from 10 months to 12 months position. This is an information item brought to us by Mr. Kyle Gertis and Ms. Deidre Salas. Or Mr. Billy Lorimer. I apologize, there's 3 people.
No, I'm here if they need me.
Okay,
I threw a few extra names on there.
thank you.
So, let me start with this. Really exciting, Kim Lyle is gonna retire at the end of her contract, which is up at the end of June, which is super exciting for her. What that means for us as a district is we need to look at hiring a new principal of the Early Learning and Development Center. When Kim took the position back in 2022, it became a 12-month position. Prior to that, it was a 10-month or 200-day contract. And then the previous director or directors would work kind of summer hours to try and fulfill the duties that they needed to have over the summer. A big part of being the principal of our Early Learning Development Center, but especially on the early childhood side of things, is the requirement under law that when students transition from early intervention services to early childhood services, we have to have a meeting by the time they turn 3 and have all these things in place. Kids turn 3 over the summer. So that's kind of why we have to have an administrator available to kind of have those IEP meetings and staff the students and families in. What we found over the last couple of years with Ms. Lyle being a 12-month administrator is that she's not only been able to fulfill that need, but she's also been able to help us with the extended school year program, being the primary administrator for that. We've had it be a 2 administrative role the last couple of years because we've had more than one location that required somebody on site for that. But having that 12-month administrator really allowed us to have the EI to EC component of the position taken care of over the summer, the ESY management taken care of, but then also the day-to-day things of getting us ready for the school year and welcoming new families to the district as they enroll a 3 to 4 or 5-year-old. So for all of those reasons, we would like the board to take action to make it a 12-month position after Kim retires. So basically for the next ELDC principal coming in, offering a 12-month contract as opposed to a 10-month contract.
Keep in mind, keep in mind, ELDC is also the only building without an additional administrator, so Kim Lyle's the only principal at ELDC. All our other elementary schools have a principal, assistant principal, and some of them have our restorative deans.
And what is the current for all of our elementary schools? Are those 10-month or 12-month positions?
So they're currently 10-month, both assistant principal and deans as well.
So I guess I'm just not understanding the justification that ELDC needs to be a 12-month when all of our elementary schools are operating on a 10-month calendar.
So a couple of differences there. One would be that responsibility for extended school year would continue. None of our elementary principals, unless they take on that responsibility, have that as part of their job description. The other piece of it is the special education responsibility of having those early intervention to early childhood meetings. That is something that only happens at that 3-year-old age range, so at the ELDC. Not something that our elementary or even secondary principals would have as part of their job duties.
Because they will receive the children once they're 5, obviously they're
Correct.
transitioning. Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
Any other questions? No? All right, consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item H, Press Plus 117, this is a first reading. It is, go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we have Press Plus, issue 117, that we would need you all to have a read through. There's a number of changes, but even as I was reviewing these changes with a new president coming on, we might be seeing additional changes or converting some of these back. So we're gonna do a first read. These are things that cover anywhere from board governance, the district operations and safety, employment and civil rights, as well as student attendance and records, curriculum and accelerated programming, student behavior, appearance, and health, and then there's 1 or 2 miscellaneous items. At the next board meeting, I will ask at that time if there are any questions in regards to these new policies, and or if we need a second read. Otherwise, we'll take a vote on accepting those as we normally do after the second read or in lieu of a second read. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to assist.
Okay, and if we do have any feedback, do you want us to send it to you by a specific date or just before the meeting?
Well, I think that if it's not before the next meeting, I would expect there will be questions at the next meeting. Otherwise, if there are no questions, then, and everybody feels comfortable, then we'll go ahead and do a vote at that
I
time.
got one question. So under student behavior, appearance, and health, it's item number 7. Talks about provides that consent to being hazed is not a defense to hazing, essentially. Now, I guess, what exactly is that in regards to? Because I know when I was in high school, like, we had big sis, little sis. You know, where essentially senior girls would, wake up freshman girls at like 2 a.m, take them to breakfast, It was something everyone agreed to be a part of, it was a thing that everyone did. Is this kind of relating to those kind of things? Or I guess do you know what's prompting this?
So I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't gone through all of them. I actually have gone up until student attendance and records, so I haven't gotten to that point. But I'll be more than happy to do that and answer that question
I
as
guess
soon
I'll
as I
even
get it.
ask Sarah, does
He's getting ahead of
business even
He keeps
exist
getting ahead of
anymore?
himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
maybe that means agreeing to be hazed doesn't mean you should be hazed, right? I
Right.
mean,
Doesn't make it ever okay,
Right.
Amanda. So,
maybe that harms someone in hazing, I don't know.
we will get more information in that as we go through it and definitely more clarification, so make sure that we review it and ask any questions or send any questions their way so that they can seek more information, whether it be obviously within our policies or things that we have to obviously move up and request from the state, so let's make sure that you send those
Absolutely.
questions to them. But thank you for the question nonetheless. Any other questions? No? All right, next item is superintendent report.
Well, good evening, and today was our first e-learning day of the year. As chilly as it was, I'm expecting that it went well. I didn't hear any feedback. I don't know if you all did, but it seems like it went well. I feel that we'll know tomorrow as people are coming back, where we need maybe some gaps or otherwise. But I'm glad that we have that opportunity. I just want to make sure that everybody out in the world understands that when we close the district for e-learning, the expectation is students are working on things that they've known either from their teacher, or they're being given the assignment prior, or they're meeting with their teacher, whatever the e-learning plan is based on the grade level. They're available on the website so parents can get a chance to see them. Otherwise, obviously reach out to the teacher and to the school. But most importantly, I wanted you all to know that the decision to do that isn't taken lightly. So usually I, along with the rest of the superintendents in the county, have a conversation the day prior, and we are discussing each one of our policies and where we want to go with it. We're making sure that our cabinets are all understanding what we're going with it, that we have a plan for action, and then of course that the board members are informed and can give us some feedback. So it's not just about like, oh, it's cold outside. We really are looking for a -30 with the wind chill, 35, and then we'll be able to see that. You know, we're hearing, oh, tomorrow's gonna be a cold day too. Yes, we get that every day. That isn't, 70 degrees to me is gonna be a cold day, and I get that, but there are parameters that we have to stick to. So I just wanna make sure that everyone understands where that means. The other piece of it is if we have snow, we're looking for transportation, the bus company, to be able to take the back roads and any road that leads to children to pick them up. If they can get past them, if they can get through them without any safety concerns, if the buses are turning on. So there's a lot of things that get to be checked off in order for us to determine whether or not we're taking an e-learning day. I just wanted to put that out there in case, you had some questions, because I know some people have reached out to me, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So thank you for the e-learning day to the students, to the staff, and to families. And hopefully, I expect that it went very well today and that you all stay warm. The other thing we mentioned a little bit earlier is around having an open discussion around the ELDC. If you'll notice that in Press Plus, the law, the state code that says that we are no longer required to have a referendum for any building that we add or renovate that includes a pre-K or kindergarten building, classroom, because we need the space. So I wanted to make sure that we come back to the conversations that we had at the last time and really begin to talk about that innovation we need to be able to do so that we can, number one, reduce class size at the middle school, but also make sure that all of our students are getting what they need, if that makes sense for the district. So within ELDC though, having the additional space outside of Huntley would allow us to make decisions in the future about how we can roll out these programs at a different kind of scale. We currently only have 10 buildings, 10 classrooms, and we are at a shortage. And I mean, we can talk about that next time, but I want to make sure that I bring that out. In case anybody has any questions or would like to be a part of that, please feel free to shoot me an email with some questions that can be answered, or if you'd like to come to the board meeting to state your concern, then feel free to do that as well. I'd like to also just remind everybody that tomorrow is the ribbon cutting over at the BOBTC, which is the Beyond One Bar Transition Center. We're really excited about that. It starts at 4 p.m. So feel free to come over to Charter Street. Kyle and the team and Rita are doing some great things tomorrow to showcase, show off our kids and all of the work that we'll be doing over there. So one last thing, just to correct myself from earlier. So I was looking at my blue and orange hat over here for the Bears, thinking about my new coach that's coming over from the Lions. And so that's when we talked about wearing your black and orange to the game at the Convocation Center on the last Friday of January for the boys and the girls' basketball game against those neighbors of ours. So please come out, it's a great time. I'll be there, we'll all be there, those of us that can. It's always a lot of fun to see that. And this year, we're taking both of them home, so sorry but not sorry. All right, thank you, and that's it for me, turning that back over to you.
All right. Okay, any last minute questions, comments, or concerns? No? All right. All right, it is now, I apologize. apologize. It is now 8:52, and it is, with that, we will adjourn the meeting for tonight. It is recommended that the Board of Education will adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night and be safe.